here. This is Hamilton Neal with you as always for taking the time to join us and really excited for this first live show. Excited for everybody joining us here today. And this is a departure from what we normally do here on this channel. We usually have like pre-recorded videos and we hope you've enjoyed all of those as well. But we're jumping in here to a live stream and big reason that we're doing this right now is because we had the national championship game last night between UConn and South Carolina. And we're going to talk all about that here in this video and in this live stream. And we're going to talk as well about some roster outlook for UConn and for South Carolina for next season. And on our next live stream, probably coming up tomorrow, we're going to talk more at length about UConn's roster outlook and how things are going for them right now. But we're going to start first by talking about the national championship game last night, played between South Carolina and UConn. South Carolina 64-49 win here, second national championship, taking down the Huskies, who this was their first national championship loss under Gino Auriemma. And again, the score 64-49. Really, really great game all the way through. If you're looking at it from the South Carolina standpoint, if you're UConn, very, very tough way to end the season, but great accomplishment to get to this point and to win and to go to this national championship game. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to get it done. So we're going to go over some stats. We're going to look at the box score and we're going to break down the game and some keys to the victory for South Carolina. 26 points from Destanni Henderson. That was a career high for her. Really great game all the way through. She consistently brought it from the jump. She was really, really great for them and really brought it throughout the entire game. Zia Cook had 11 points and 5 rebounds. Aaliyah Boston had 11 points and 16 rebounds as well. And we expect that from Aaliyah Boston every single game to bring that double double. And that was the really the biggest key to the game, guys, was UConn's inability to rebound the basketball and to keep up with the inside post players from South Carolina. Big stat here, 49-24. South Carolina out-rebounded UConn and forced 15 turnovers, 17 of 26 from the free throw line. South Carolina was regularly getting to the free throw line, and UConn wasn't as much, only 1 of 4 from the line, 4 of 16 from 3, 22 of 54. They shot 40% for the game. And when you just look at the box score, you see that they shot it pretty well, and that was an okay clip, but you have to go back and watch the game. You have to go back and watch the highlights to see just how dominant South Carolina was here in this game. And again, it was Henderson with 26, a career high, Cook and Boston with 11 points as well. And not only with the rebounding, in addition to the rebounding, in addition to what they did forcing turnovers, they shot pretty solid from the floor, 36.7%, 22 of 60 from there, 3 of 16 from 3. Very strugglesome, just again, when you're looking at the box score, but they didn't need to hit a ton of shots because UConn was struggling. And UConn was really swarmed the entire game by South Carolina on the defensive end. And it's not just the rebounding, but it's the activity and the juice that South Carolina came out and played with. And UConn wasn't quite able to match that. They weren't able to consistently get things going. So again, for UConn, tough, tough game. Paige Bueckers did have 14.6 rebounds and 2 assists, but it was a very strugglesome 14 points. And again, the thing that UConn really likes to do, guys, and you see this when you watch all their games, and we have a lot of UConn fans in this community right now. Uh, you see the backdoor cutting, you see the movement on the offensive end, and they just weren't able to get that going here in this game, and they weren't able to consistently bring that. And give credit to South Carolina for making that happen. South Carolina was active on the defensive end, especially on the perimeter, because the thing about South Carolina is, and we talked about this on our tournament previews and other videos, South Carolina had the best defensive team left in the Final Four, and arguably the best defensive team in the NCAA tournament. So for UConn, the key was going to be trying to rebound somewhat consistently and trying to get some movement. But South Carolina had UConn on lock this entire game. And for Paige Bueckers, she usually moves without the basketball so well and has so much space to operate, but that wasn't the case here in this game. Again, only 14 points, but it was a strugglesome 14. Caroline Ducharme had 9 points, Aaliyah Edwards 8, Avina Westbrook had 7. Again, low scoring game here for UConn, only 49 points. They average around 75 points per game in most of their other contests. They were scoring. They were scoring really consistently, but they had some lower scoring games throughout this tournament. And we kind of had a feeling that this one wouldn't quite be a track meet, that both teams were going to kind of keep it around 50, 60 points. And that's what we saw here in this game. but UConn just was not able to get enough offense to consistently get buckets. And that's the key against South Carolina, just getting some easy offense. But nothing came easy last night for the UConn Huskies. And Gino Auriemma's first loss in a national championship game. And again, that just says a lot about how great that he's been and how great UConn has been over the years and getting to these championship games and winning and delivering consistently. But this was one of the best teams, South Carolina, certainly the best team in the country this season, and they probably had the best team the last couple of years when you look at their roster and everything that they can do, and just everything with Aaliyah Boston, starting with her on the interior and moving out. They've had the best team the last couple of seasons. And had they won that game against Stanford last year in the Final Four in the national semifinals, probably would have gone on to win against Arizona in the national championship game. And we can't say for sure what would have happened, but South Carolina finally gets that championship with this core and with these players. And it's something that they were really on a mission to do after the way that last season ended. So again, it's South Carolina's second national championship, taking down UConn 64-49. A great season for UConn. Again, like I said, nobody really expected them to even get to the championship game. You know, when they had that matchup against Stanford in the Final Four, everybody was talking about maybe that's where the season would end for them, but they gritted out a victory there and were able to move things forward into the championship game against South Carolina, but just didn't have the same type of success. UConn had a ton of success against Stanford rebounding the basketball and consistently doing that. And to have a chance to beat South Carolina, they were going to have to do a lot more of that, and that just wasn't the case for them. That's not what happened. So again, that was really the biggest thing that plagued them was the lack of rebounding, the lack of finesse on the inside, and they're getting some help on the interior, and we're going to talk about that with our roster outlook for UConn. But that's just a quick recap of the championship game. Again, you can go back and watch and see the highlights, see the full game. Again, the box score doesn't do justice how dominant South Carolina was here in this game, just from a physical standpoint and just rebounding the basketball and swarming on the defensive end. Those are things you really can't see in the box score. Got to go back and watch the highlights. So definitely go and do that. Most of you have already seen the game and you saw just how dominant that South Carolina was. And Paige Bueckers said after the game that at UConn, it's national championship or nothing. And if they're going to be successful and if they want to win that championship, they got to use this as a lesson and they got to get better. So we'll see how things go. Going to keep this one really quick, guys. Again, we got to go off pretty soon. Just want to get a quick live in here for you. Quick roster breakdown here for both teams, UConn and South Carolina. Again, we're going to do more of this on our next live stream. But first, UConn, Paige Bueckers coming back along with Aaliyah Edwards, Nika Meal. Those three will be juniors along with Piath Gabriel. Given that she does stay for her junior season and doesn't like enter the transfer portal or anything, she's going to be back. So those four would be juniors and will be juniors for the Huskies. Caroline Ducharme, AZ Fudd are going to be sophomores along with Amari DeBerry. So those three have more experience under their belt, especially Ducharme and Fudd. You have Dorka Uhas coming back as a grad student and a couple of freshmen coming in. Ayanna Patterson, Ice Brady, those two ranked in the top five in the class of 20 team in the country for next season, but UConn's going to be right there behind them. But when you look at what South Carolina has coming in and coming back, you have a couple of freshmen, Talasia Cooper and Ashlyn Watkins. Those two will be entering into the